In the first of the month of the 2024-2025 school year, many local schools in Broome, Tompkins, and Chemung counties have dealt with threats of violence, with much of it circulating on social media. Captain Benjamin Harding of the Broome County Sheriff's Office says these threats are taken seriously and handled by the school districts as well as several levels of local law enforcement. Harding says a majority of these threats have been false or misleading. He advises all threats be directly reported to schools and law enforcement first.
Misinformation that gets put out on Instagram and Snapchat is very counterproductive to that. So we encourage people, if you do hear something, please contact your school district, or after hours emergency, please contact law enforcement. But please try to limit how much information you're putting out on social media that may not be accurate.
Harding says discipline can be issued for individuals who make these threats by school districts or law enforcement, depending on the age of the perpetrator or the severity of the threat. On Long